Hello everybody, this is Curtis Hawkins from AsiaPacifica.com. I want to just touch base on stock price. A lot of people determine if a stock is cheap or not just by looking at its price, which is completely wrong. You want to make sure you consider many other factors. I'm just going to touch on a couple, but there's a lot of other factors you need to consider when determining if a stock is cheap or not. If a person asks me how much Apple is, and I say it's $350 a share, they shy away and they go, "Ooh, that's expensive." And when I mention another company that's only trading for $10 a share, their eyes get big and they go, "Ooh, it's cheap. I want to buy some." Again, that's completely wrong. You can't just look at the stock price. You need to consider things like the PE ratio, price to earnings ratio, and again, with that ratio, with all these ratios and numbers, you want to compare it to the industry and its competitors. So you look at the PE ratio and see how it fares and compares to its competitors. You want to look at the amount of outstanding shares. That makes a big difference for a company in determining valuation of a stock price. The more outstanding shares, the more spread out the wealth is per share, which makes a difference in earnings per share, which you also want to look at. You also want to look at book value of a share. Current ratio is also an important number you want to look at. This determines the short-term solvency of a company. This is just taking the current assets, dividing it by the current liabilities, and seeing how much, if you can pay off your current liabilities with your current assets. You want that number to be greater than 1. If it's less than 1, that means that you have more current liabilities than current assets. Another ratio you want to look at for short-term solvency is the quick ratio, which is the same thing essentially as the current ratio, except it removes the inventory, because a lot of companies can manipulate inventory to make things look better than they really appear. And there's different accounting methods for inventory, such as LIFO and FIFO, which LIFO is last in, first out, and FIFO is first in, first out. So you just take the current assets, remove all the inventory, and then you take the current liabilities and you divide that. So those are just a few numbers you want to definitely look at, along with income. You also want to look at earnings and estimated earnings. So there's a lot of things in determining if a company is expensive or not. You can't just look at the share price. And again, if a company does do a stock split, for instance a 2-for-1, let's say Apple did a 2-for-1 stock split from 300 to 150, but behind the scenes the amount of shares doubled. So at the end of the day, nothing changed. The stock price looks cheaper, but the value is exactly the same. If anything, it's less valuable because they have to spend all the money on paperwork to do the stock split. So just keep that in mind. Don't ever purchase a stock because of its price, and if it's $10, it does not mean it's cheap.